You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmeyer, right here on LA Talk Radio.
All right, time to start this train wreck. Let's just get right to it. Going around the room is the man everyone knows as Bumblebee. We call him the Big Robot. Mark Ryan from The Prestige and 100 other Robin Hood. Yeah, really.
Good
What
morning,
can I say
Rob.
about
How are
myself?
you all? In regards to how many countries now? 35 countries?
Yes, in over 35 countries. And if you're joining us for the first time in one of those countries, we apologize for what you're about to hear.
Yes.
I actually want to, before I introduce the rest of the panel, there is a really cool, there's been a lot of interesting listener fan pages in support of the show that sprung up, but I think I saw one of the funniest last night called Darth Vader, Evil Agent of Combat Radio. And it showed the picture is Darth Vader sitting on a park bench helping two little kids. And I said, that's, I've seen, there's been, Combat Radio's advice from HAL 9000. There's been the G.I. Joe, Cobra. There's been all this weird stuff, which I think was created by one of our listener friends over at Hasbro. But the Darth Vader, Evil Agent of Combat Radio is breaking new ground, and I was laughing for an hour and a half reading that page. So props to you guys. Special day for us, actually. We have the intrepid producer-director of multiple films and kind of a big deal, Phil Lairness.
The details of my life are quite inconsequential.
But sordid.
He is also the co-host and producer of the Chill Pack Hollywood Hour, which is one of our favorite radio shows. You heard it from us. It's a brilliant show, and I understand you're editing an Ethan's Tantrums Greatest Hits reel over there.
I've got some highlights that I'm going to be playing in permanent rotation, I think.
And it's going to be
show.
part of the Ethan versus Axl Rose YouTube battle coming up, I'm sure, as to which one of us can do more stage diving on other innocent people.
And let's just say as well that in our previous show, while we were waiting for you to arrive, because you're always now known as the man that arrives late, it used to be me. I had that title up until recently, because I was always late.
That's a new title, the man who's always late.
The man is, But we were just saying what an absolute pleasure and how seamlessly and fun working at Popcorn was with both your good self and...
It was an effortless partnership, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And also, you are the producer of the upcoming Truth Is Out There, too, which features us. We are actually in that movie, and we'll talk... You can never talk enough about that. That's my Billy D. Williams moment.
Can never spend enough time promoting something that you're currently making. Yeah.
And now, our very, very special guest, she is a brilliant writer, has worked for Variety, The New Yorker, LA Times, but has written one of our handbooks around the studio that includes stories about many people we know and have worked with. The brilliant Nicole LaPorte.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for having you. And the book is The Men Who Would Be King, DreamWorks. Basically the handbook, and I've got it in front of me, and you can tell mine has been
well-worn copy. I'm very impressed.
If you. It wouldn't be this well worn if the book sucked, but unfortunately this is a major page turner.
So you weren't throwing it around before I came?
No, I'm not one of those people.
Driving the car over it.
Is that what David Geffen was doing? Was he doing donuts in his golf cart over the book?
Right.
The book.
He does hit us over the head with the book. Hey, did you learn nothing from this book? Did you learn nothing?
Well, this book is this is a must-read for anyone even remotely associated with the entertainment industry. It's a must-read, and one of the things that's so fascinating about it is it doesn't just capture the partnership and the relationship at DreamWorks between Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen, but it captures all the surrounding elements and firefights that you love to read about, especially most of which we already knew. Like, for instance, the feud between David Geffen and former super agent Mike Govitz.
Right.
Which was, near disastrous. Well, I'm going to ask you to touch on some of these, but how about the firing of Katzenberg by Eisner and basically the witch hunt Eisner went on? There's just all these unreal, the production of Saving Private Ryan, the debacle in the Oscar race for Amistad, and, it gets into the press relations, and I'm surprised at you, since you're the smartest guy on the show. Mark Ryan looked over here and with like a what? Because I'm talking to Phil. I'm surprised you haven't read that. But what's interesting about it, and Ryan, the Transformer films are covered pretty well towards the end of the book too.
You know what? I have to admit, I haven't read this book either. But that's it's not unusual for me. I to be honest with you, I try not to read stuff about the business. I try to deal with people as I find them.
Well, this will change your opinion. Well, here's the interesting thing about this book, and we talked earlier this week, Nicole, is that this book does an exceptional job of getting stories across without bashing anyone. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's things in there that we knew about. We knew David Geffen, could be a screamer. You know, we knew that Katzenberg was a workaholic and he had 5 Diet Cokes by 8 in the morning and was on the road. We knew these things, and you said something very interesting to me. You said, you know, in their world where they're surrounded by people that tell them how great they are every day, they probably do see this book as bashing because I say that Katzenberg had 10 Cokes that day.
Right. Yeah, well, you were asking me their response and sort of how they took it. And I told you because again, I guess it's clear, they did not participate for this book, so it was all kind of a lot of off the record and just talking to everybody, you know, around them. But, you know, and when the book came out, they, you know, I expected that they would either trash me or ignore me, and as it turns out, they ignored me, and so they claimed they haven't read the book, and you had said, well, as you just said, you know, that it's very even-handed, and I'm surprised. And, you know, definitely in spending all this time researching them, you realize that they live in this bubble, and that, you know, they're so used to dictating the stories about them and, you know, having all these press people dictating the stories about them, that anything that isn't just glorious comes off as, you know, slanderous.
Yeah, one of the amazing things is you do talk about how they tried to control the press, and actually they would make uncharacteristic visits at like the LA Times and show up with a stack of negative articles and say, you're slandering us and this is a witch hunt to smear us, and they would have these kind of behind the scenes battles over the press. But what was also interesting, though, is in this book are such great details, because at the time of, like, Minority Report's production, you say that Spielberg and Cruise had a rift because, number one, he was having the meltdown at that time on Oprah's couch. And a lot of this...
This is War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. And like, they were saying that, you know, he should have been promoting the film. Instead, he was telling, you know, he was going nuts on Matt Lauer. And another thing that kind of started the rift was that Tom Cruise insisted on having a tent set up with Scientology materials available to the cast and crew, and kind of using it as his presence there as kind of like a sales tool for the organization, as it will. I mean, those kind of things in a book, when you read it, are like, you're just like, wow. You know, look at that.
Of course, my presence here today is as a sales tool for the organization.
Known as the... Oh, yeah.
I'll be giving massages and... talking about Dianetics later in the show.
I did notice a tent when I walked.
Yes, well, that's Phil.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon.
You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmeyer, right here on LA Talk Radio.